All right, so welcome back. This is the last part of what we were doing, and this is a continuation of the last lecture, last video that we were doing on the various ways of reaching and calculating the GDP. And if you remember, we said that one way of doing this was by finding out the incomes of the people. The other way of doing it was finding out what people were spending on and how much they were spending. So those are two ways of looking at the same thing, the same GDP, the same income. Uh, we said that whether we look at it from the income earners angle, or if we look at it from the angle of the person spending the money, at the end of the day the GDP will be the same, because the same product will be produced and the same product will be bought, and then expenditure will be on that according to the market value. There's one last method of looking at GDP, and that is by what is produced in various sectors of the economy. For example, if I want to find out what the output of a country is and what the value of that output is. Now, once again, I'm this is a teaser. If this is a country and these are the products that it is producing, so what are you going to say the GDP is? The GDP is not tomatoes, it's not I think mangoes or whatever is here. It's the market value of all this output. It is the value that people will give when they consume these products. So the market value of the goods that are produced, the value of the goods that are produced determines the GDP of a country. So what is the overall GDP? The value of goods and services that is produced, let's say, in the agricultural sector of the country. The value of goods and services contributed by the manufacturing sector. So if Japan is producing agricultural goods, Japan is also producing these fabulous flashy cars. And then Japan is also producing, but this is not Japan, this is Harvard University. It is also producing a service like education. Then we will have to add the value of all three. We will have to add the market value of all three to reach the GDP or the national income of this particular country. And then we will now categorize these three ways of reaching the GDP. The first method that we used, remember, income of the labor, income of the businesses, profits, and the rent earned by the land or the ownership of the land. This method of determining GDP is called the income method. That is the first method of determining GDP. The second method that we saw, where the lady was buying the goods on the shelf and there was a lifter and there was a bridge. Now, that is the expenditure method. Why? Because you are consuming the good, spending. You are investing in the lifter, you are spending. The government is buying the bridge, spending. And to that, we add one more thing, the exports, because in order for things to be exported, they will have to be produced inside the country. All right. And the third method, of course, is the output method. So in the output method, we have agriculture, manufacturing, services, whatever they produce together, add them up, and you will get the national income. Let's look at, when we were doing this in the last video, we saw some of the countries with the highest GDP. And some of the countries that are the highest GDP were, if you recall, Japan, if you recall, the United States of America, if you recall, China. Now let's look at the third method, output method, and let's see the last 2 points, manufacturing and services. Now, let us see through a video which countries in the world are the highest in terms of the production of vehicles, cars, trucks. Let me show you this little video. So, which are the countries which are highest in manufacturing? You will see that the more they are high in manufacturing, the higher their GDP is. Let's just have a look at this video. Look at these countries. The fifth, the 15th country is the Czech Republic. Turkey, which has a high GDP, I think over 1 trillion, is producing a very large number of cars. Russia is producing 4,710 cars daily. This is the manufacturing sector. What did we say in output? Take agriculture, add to manufacturing, then add to services that are produced, and you get the GDP. So, look, these countries, Spain is a small country, but Spain is manufacturing 7,730 cars or vehicles per day. As the manufacturing level of a country is going up, its GDP is also rising. South Korea is one of the highest GDPs in the world. India's GDP is now in the range of, I think, 1.5 trillion. So, as the high GDP is a direct proportion of the manufacturing that is taking place in the country, who can dispute with Japan when it comes to cars? Uh, who can match Japan? But Japan is still number three. Number one is not Japan, it is, of course, China. Okay, so why does China and the United States have such high GDPs? Because they are very good at manufacturing. Okay, and so it's not just manufacturing cars, but there may be other things that they may be very good at manufacturing. Let's look at services now. Let's look at services. The manufacturing sector, we said, China and the United States have the highest GDP in the world. They have a very highly developed manufacturing sector. Now, let's look at their service sector. And we are just looking at one thing: banking. Banking is one service. Okay. Likewise, there may be thousands of services that are present in these countries. But let's just look at one service: banking. Which countries of the world are the highest in banking? Interestingly, the 15th country in the world is Japan, the 15th largest bank in the world. And we are measuring these banks by their assets. So the 15th is Japan, the 14th is the United States, with where Wells Fargo has $1,927 billion worth of assets. Just have a look. It's in direct proportion to the GDP. Right? If a country has a high GDP, it has more services, it has more manufacturing, it has more agriculture. Add them up together, you get the GDP, which is the overall output of the country. Crédit Agricole, France's bank, Bank of America, often called too big to fail, assets were 2,819 billion United States dollars. HSBC, of course, is a British bank, sixth in the world. Bank of China, fifth in the world. One of the largest, and we thank World Studio TV for this, one of the largest, JP Morgan Chase United States Bank, 3,386 billion worth of assets. All right, and the last three big banks in the world, of course, belong to China. And because their services are so high, are so many, and so diverse, and of such high value, all that is adding to the GDP of these countries. And these countries are therefore the highest in terms of producing the uh, highest value products in the market. So I hope that this was useful to you, and I have tried to explain the GDP, how it is calculated, and how it is looked at from the various angles. I thank you very, very much for your attention. I hope these videos were useful to you, and hopefully We will, in the next video, then we are going to look at another chapter which is related to money and its functions. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Bye bye.